قدم ኣብ ህይወትክን ቀዳማይ እግዚአብሔር ምዃኑ ብድሕሪኡ ስድራኽን ብድሕሪኡ ቤት ትምህርትኽን ወላ እኳ ጽቡቕ ጌርካ የተረዳእክን ግን ንዕኡስ ንዓበኽን ኢኽን ትኸራየርክን ስለዚህ እግዚአብሔር ሲ ናይ ሓቂ ቀዳማይ ምዃኑ ኣብ ህይወትክን ብውልቅኽን ደራገጽናሉስ መዓስ እዩ ንጎይታ መዓስ ፈልጥክን መዓስ ኢኽን ጎይታ ተቐቢልክን
The day I got saved, I think I was 10 years old, 10 or 11. And I was with mom actually, and we were talking, and she taught me it's the environment that I've been raised in, so it wasn't anything that was new to me or foreign to me, but it was just me deciding that God is real and that's what I want to do. I want to live my life. But I would definitely say that when I got older is when I really rededicated my life and really understood what complete transformation looks like, and completely laying your life down and the sacrifice that's required, the discipline that's required, the faith that's required, the things that you need to do, like reading your word and spending time in prayer and all of that kind of stuff. I didn't understand that until I got older. So I was saved and I understood that should be the guideline for how I approach things, but I didn't completely understand the magnitude of that until I was older.
Okay. Betticha, ma'asio ne goita lefalet kullu.
I think I was 12, I want to say. The same, I was with mom, and she taught me, she taught all of us the same thing. Well, both of our parents obviously, but mom did the whole prayer with us and stuff like that. And I mean, there's no denying when you're that young, you don't know everything. And in that point of life, I'm pretty sure everything was perfect. Like, I had nothing to worry about. I had no problems. Life was great. Mm-hmm. There was nothing to make you doubt at that age. Like, at least for me, because I was that fortunate. But there's no denying, like, as years go by, there's things that can come in the way and make you, like, doubt things, rethink things. But we're very, like, again, mom and dad are always so willing to answer our questions. Yeah. And I have a lot of questions when it comes to Christianity and stuff, like just the regular, like, Bible verses and stuff. I have a lot of questions. Like, my dad is the same way. Dad is the same way. So I ask him 101 questions all the time. Even till now, I ask him as many challenging questions as I have. And they never make me feel like I'm being bad for asking, or like I'm not believing God's word if I ask. They say it's good. They say it's good to ask my questions. So I ask, like, if I don't understand something, or if I'm like, how can God say this? How can God think this way? Because if I don't understand it, I'll ask. And when I was younger, I thought I couldn't do that. I thought, like, not because of my parents, but I was just like, oh, it's God. Like, just accept it, Betty, and that's it, like, type of thing. But when you get older, it's just like, but how? Like, I always have the but how. And I always ask questions, like, not even with spiritual things. I just like to understand things more. And I got it from my dad. So that's why he's always understanding and is always willing to answer those kinds of questions. But again, your faith is not always going to be the same. Like, it's not always going to be great, for sure. And there's times in our life, well, in my life at least, where it was, there's no denying that it was rocked. It was,
tested.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I cannot sit here and say that it's not. And who knows, even in the future, there's things that are going to come your way. But when you are taught from young and your foundation is strong, then at the end of the day, it's not going to be fully shaken. Like, you can be, like, moved a little, but we're never going to actually, fall completely, because we have that foundation, thanks to our parents. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good. አምላኽ ይመስገን ስለዚህ ከም ዝበልክና ንክልቴኽን 11 ሓንቲ 12 ዕድሜኽን ጎይታ ፍልጥክን ከም ዝበልክዮ ድማ ርጉፅ እዩ ኣብቲ ዕድመቲ ኩሉ ፅቡቅ ጌራ ይርዳእካኒ ብፍላይ ከም ዝቤት ዝበልክዮ ድማ ኩሉ ቀሊል ይሽዑ ህይወት ቀሊል እዩ ተሓትት ወሃበካ ንስድራኻ ትነግሮም ከምዚኣ ድሊ ትብል መፃልካ ትሽገሮ ነገር የለን ድሓርና ዓበኻ ክትመፅእ ከለኻ ግን ሓንቲ ካብታ ድሓስዋ ገለ ሕቶታት ሓትት ነይረ ብዙሕ ኢልክን ድሞኒ ትዝክሪ ሕቶት ኣልዩ ተመለሰልኪ
like we have Bible study every day and when we read like in just one chapter I can find like 10, 15 questions that I'm just like, what? This doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And I don't ask all of them because it can get annoying, but like I have a lot of just like, and there's very standard questions that a lot of Christians have, like, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do children die? Why do like people that give their life to God in very poor places and they die because they're starving, they die from thirst? You know, like, you know, even till now you cannot fully understand the way the Trinity works, like 3 in 1. That always confused me. Like there are some things that I can just never fully understand. And obviously dad does his best to, mom and dad, but I ask mostly dad. So he does his best to explain to me in a way that I can understand. But one thing he says to me every single time is all of us, every human, including him, including me, we have very small brains. So we're not going to understand God completely. There's no way. But we do know that the Bible is, nothing is incorrect. It's completely correct. So some things we just have to take as it is. And of course, we're going to have so many questions. Like everybody will have questions, but it's good to always be humble and remember that you cannot know like what God's reasoning is all the time. Like you can ask him, you can pray for it, but some things he won't reveal to you. I'm learning that now. Like it's okay to just say, oh, I don't have the answer. Like it's okay to not know. You don't have to know every little question or every detail, like, because everything will be shown to us in the future for eternal life. Like once we see God, that's, you don't have any more questions. So as of now, you just have to be willing to understand that you will not know everything. Be humble to realize that, and from there. Okay. But it's still good to ask questions. Like it's still good to want to learn more, because that makes me want to learn. When I ask questions, I want to figure it out myself. I want to research it. I want to read the Bible more. I want to talk to dad about it more. So it does fuel me to get to know God more. It gives me that interest. So it's a good thing to have questions, but there's a certain limit. There's a certain amount that you'll know.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Well, that's the reality. Yeah. That's life. ولا بزعبة እግዚአብሔር طيب يكونس ولا بزعبة زي كبابينا بزعبة like the universe ولا كلون, we don't know everything.
Yeah.
We have so many questions. ስለዚህ ነትحقلو حتاتنا ኣብ ግዜ ከም ዝበልክዮ እቲ ምግላጽ ጎይታ ምስ መጸ ምግሃድ ምስ ኮነሽ ሁሉ ክገሃድ እዩ.
Exactly.
ስለዚህ ናታ ተቕጽል ሕቶ ካልእ ክኸይድ እምበር ድሕሪት መጻን ሕቶ እንታይ እያ ንስኽን ጎይታ ምስ ተቐበልክን ህይወትክን ምስ ተፈለጥክንዎ ምንባር ምስ ጎይታ ከመይ ምዃኑ ምስ ተረዳእክን ተሪፍኒ ትብልኦ ወይ ከዓኒ I wish I had done this ቅድሚ ጎይታ ምፍላጠይ እዚኣ ዝገብራ ነይረ ትብልኦ ነገር እንታይ ኣሎ ነይርክን ዶ ነይርክን ዲ ወይ እውን ትብልኦ ነገር ነይሩ ድዩ?
That's a tough question. I'll be honest, yeah. There are some things that you just wonder, or you just can't help but ask questions, and you can't help but think. And when you're surrounded by people where 99% of them are not like you and don't live like you and don't have the same beliefs as you, you do begin to wonder, like, they seem happier than I do, and they're doing whatever they want, and they don't seem to be lacking in this, but they can still enjoy this. So what am I gaining, you know? And I'm not perfect. So I'll be the first to say that I'm far from perfect. I've made mistakes of my own too. And the biggest thing that I've learned from that is that God is not trying to keep you from having fun. God isn't trying to make you miss out on things in this life by following him and by dedicating your life to him. Because the more mistakes I've made and the things that I've learned from my mistakes is that I pay the consequence, and I'm carrying all of those things back to God. So I'm taking all of that baggage, all of that, you know, everything, and then running back to him, when in reality I could have just not gone through any of that and been free and just been, you know, innocent like a child in front of him. So I think that's been the biggest takeaway for me. And the more time that I do spend time, like the more time I spend in the Word and the more time I spend seeking after God himself and I see his character, then I understand why he puts certain rules in place. I mean, it's just like a good parent, you know? You guys put rules in place, not because you gain anything from it or not because you don't want us to have fun, but just so we can have the best life that we can. And I think that rule applies, if not more, to God. That's exactly how he sees us. So he's not trying to prevent us from anything. And I definitely still have moments where I say, I wish I could, you know, do what my friends are doing on a Saturday night. It looks fun, or whatever the case might be. But I have to remind myself that I'm not missing out on anything, and I'm partaking in more here on this earth than just beyond what's in this tangible world. I'm partaking in something divine and something spiritual that a lot of people can't see or even tap into. So when I remember that, and I remember that the experiences that I'm gaining here are just a taste of what I'm going to get for eternity, it makes everything worth it. All of the different sacrifices and the discipline, honestly, that's required too.
True. Yes.
So, like, outside of the spiritual aspect, Frey talked more on that. One thing I felt like I was missing out on when I was younger was sleepovers. So at school, it's like 6 or 7 of the girls, they go to somebody's house, they have a sleepover, and they'll do like 3-day trip to Galveston. They have like a beach house, and one of the moms take all of them. And when you're younger, you don't think it's fair, and you cannot fully understand the whole reason of why they're saying that to us. But then to kind of compensate for that, like, so we didn't always feel left out, Dad would like take us to a hotel in Houston, like take us to a nice hotel. We get to swim, we get to do whatever we want to do. But when you're little, it's even harder to understand because you think that you know what's best for yourself. Anybody thinks, like, even now, I think I know what's best for myself. I know Betty wants this. I know Betty wants that. It's still good to try your best to explain it to them to the best of what they should know. But then as they get older, they'll learn. Like, they'll start to learn and they'll start to appreciate. Like, now we appreciate everything that Mom and Dad did for us because we can see it from a bigger perspective. And then when we have kids, we'll see it from we'll appreciate it even more because we'll know how hard it is when we're parents.
Okay. Yeah. ነዚ ሓሳባት ክንጥምት ከብሎ ክፍትን ናይ ፍሬዝ በልክና ኣብቲ ጎይታ ተቀበል ኩሉ እዋን ኣብቲ ድሕሪኡ ማለት ነበረ ህይወት ታሪፍኒ ትብልዮ ነገር ከምዚ ገለ ነገራት ምስ ወፂኻ ምጽዋት ወይ ገለ ንሱታት ግን ተመሪሳ ክሪኦ ከለኹ ትብሎ ከለኹ እንታይ ያልኩ ኣብ ህይወት እቲ መብዛሕትኡ ደስ ይልና ንገብሮ እሞ ከዓ ፍቃድ ኣምላኽ ዘይኮነ ነገር ንገብሮ ተመሪሱስ ንዓና ይዝጎላና ጽቡቕ ሓሳባት ናይ ቤት ኸኣኒ ብዛዕባ ስሊፕ ኦቨር ብናኣሽቶም ከለኸስ ደይርዳእክ ዝነበረ ትርጉም ዘይርዳእክ ነበረ መወዳእቱ ግን ጥቕሙ ዝበለጸ ጥቕሙ ድማ ወላ እኳ ደይፍቀደክ እንተነበረስ ግን ንዑ መተካእታ ነይርክን እዩ ብኻልእ መልክዑ ኮይኑ ድማ ንምንታይ ተኸልኪልዋ ሽዑ ግዜ ተረዳእኪ ሕጂ ተሓስቢዮ ከለኹ ግን ንምንታይ ጥቕሙ ከም ዝነበረ ፍላይ ምስ ካልኦት ትሪኦ ከለኺ ካልኦት ሰባት ደኸልዎ መገዲ ትሪኦ ከለኻስ ትጥቕሙስ ሕጂ ይርዳእካ እዚ ነይሩ ታሪፍና ትብሎ ነገርሲ ምስ ኩሉ ራእይኻስ የለን ማለት እዩ ንኣምላኽ ይመስገን ዳስከ እዚኣ ሓንቲ ሕቶ ለሓተክን ሕጂ ምናልባት ፍሊቲኣ ንሕዳት ምልሳ ክልክን ጽቡቕ ተሊኮነ that's fine እንታያ መብዛሕትኦም መንእሰያት ተቐንዲ ጸገም ፍላይ ኣመንቲ ኮይኖም ናብ ዝምድና which is ናብ relationship ክኸዱ ከለዉ እዩ ፍላይ ደቂ ኣመንቲ ምክንያቱ ከም ዓለም ኮሚኮን ካን ትኸይድ ዓለም ትኸዶ መገዲ ካልእ እቶም ብእምነት ድማ ለሱ ፍቃድ ኣምላኽ ፍጹም ዝደልዩ ድማ ካልእ መገዲ እዩ ኣብዚስ እንታይ ቻሌንጅ ትሪኣ ወይ እውን እንታይ ጸገም ትሪኣ ወይ እውን ብኸመይ ክስገር ይክእል
friends so I don't have I honestly both of us we don't have problems like to make friends. It's pretty easy for us to like we could just go to a place we've never been and we can make friends. So those are what we call acquaintances. So they're just there, like, you know, to laugh with, to hang out with, but I wouldn't consider them my close friends. I have very few close friends.
Yeah.
And you just have to, like, when you pick a close friend, you don't always have to see 100% eye to eye on everything, because even me and Frey cannot see 100% eye to eye on things, but I think it's important to pick a friend that will make you better as a person. So they do not encourage you to do wrong. They're there for advice, because it's always good to hear another person's opinion. Because if I don't know what I should do, and if I'm not able to talk to somebody in my family, then, oh, my close friend, like, what should I do here? Is this a good idea? And you trust them because they're going to be honest, because they want what's best for you. So they wouldn't say, oh yeah, do it, and think that it's a bad idea. Like, they don't encourage you to do wrong. They just want the best for you. So whether that's at church or at school, it's always important to have at least one person. It's hard to find a really close friend that aligns with you. So when you find that person, it's good to keep them as close as you can, and for many years to come. Additional from family, you always have that friend that you can always go to. And it's a good thing to feel. It's a good thing to have.
Okay, that's good.
I agree 100% with what Betty was saying. So there are a lot of people, I think, that think they know me, but the amount of people that actually know me I can count on my hands. I prefer to keep my circle very small. And when I was younger, I thought that the more friends I had,
the better.
Yeah, the better. And the more people would be sewing into my life. But the older that I got, I realized that it's more about the quality of the people who are in my life versus the quantity. So I think that same ideology carries over into relationships even. One thing that Mom and Dad always said was that if you have a basket and there's one bad apple, eventually it's going to corrupt all of them. So that same thing goes into relationships with people of the opposite sex as well. I think one thing I really appreciate is that Mom kept the door very open for us when it comes to stuff like that. So since elementary school, I mean, there are kids that are dating. I remember dating since kindergarten. Like, they would kiss on the playground or whatever. You know what I mean? So I don't even think they understood, but because of what they were seeing on the media, or maybe their older siblings, or maybe their parents were dating around too, it's what they were copying and imitating. So one thing that she always did since we were way young, and when it would be a little uncomfortable even to have your mom talk to you about things that you've never thought of before, she laid the foundation for us and opened up that door. So I think there is a lot of wisdom that comes with that when being a parent, because you don't want to expose your child and implant different ideas into their mind as well. But you don't also want to make them so innocently go out into the world and find everything out by what the world is telling them. So you want to be the one to define what love looks like. You want to be the one to define what relationships look like. You want to be the one to set that tone so they have an expectation and a standard for who they are and what they deserve. So it's really tough, though, because even if you do your part, it is still up to the individual, especially as they get older. I think there's a lot of free will. I mean, you're an adult. Who's going to stop you at some point? You know what I mean? But one thing you always remember is the things that were things you were taught when you were young.
Okay, thank you. كتقال حسابات ناي بيتي تبلكنا نزخونه محازا مفتاح ጸገም ይብልክን بقليلو سي محاز تفطر تخليخي ناي فريون كومو ጸገም ይብልክን محاز تفطرا ግን ቶም ቀንዲ محازوتكن دبهالو ቀረባ محازكن دبهالو ግን ውሑዳት እዮም እሶም ድማ ቶም ናይ ሓቂ ብዛዕባ ህይወትክን ዝግደሱ ገለግበር ሎምኻስ ጌርካዮ ብድሕሪኡ ድስሕቑኻ ወይ እውን ዘላግጹልካ ዘይኮኑስ ገለግበር ኢልካ ሓይትካዮም ከምዚ ክገብር ዶሕሸኒ ከምዚ ኢልካ ምስ ሽዑኡ ንዓኻ ቁኑዕ ዝኾነ ምኽሪ ዝህቡኻ እዚኦም እዮም ቶም ናይ ሓቂ ኣብቲ ናትካ ውሽጣዊ ክቢ ክህሉ ዘለዉ ቀረባ ዓሮትካ ክኾን ዘለዉ ከምኡ ድማ እቲ ንዓርካ ንምፅኣይካ ከምኡ ጌርካ ንሕዳእ መሪፅካዮ ሲ ካብኡ ንላዕሊ ድማ ኢልክዮ ፍረይ እቲ መጻምድኻ ክኸውን ደልዩ which is ማሓዛኻ ናይ ኣንጻር ጾታ ማሓዛኻ ክኸውን ደልዩ ድማ እሱ ድማ ካብኡ ንላዕለሲ ብኸምኡ ተጻረየ ሞ ዝሓለፈ ክኸውን ኣለዎ ባር ናብታ ናይ መጀመርያ ሕቶ ክመልሰክን ናብታ ናይ መጀመርያ ሓሳብ ኣዳሃብናኒ ኣብ ህይወትክን ቀዳምነት ሂብክን እትሰርዐኦ እግዚኣብሔር ምዃኑ ድሕሪኡ ስድራ ቤት ምዃኑ ብድሕሪኡ ድማ ቤት ትምህርትኽን ምዃኑ እዩ ስለዚ ምስ እግዚኣብሔር ሲ ቀዳምነት ሂብና ንሰርዖ ኣብ ህይወትና ንሱ እዩ ክትብላ ከለኽን ሲ እንታይ ማለት እዩ ወይ ብኸመይ ትገልጾ
I believe that that's a daily thing. It's something that you have to decide to do as an individual. So I only know how to do that, honestly, because I saw my parents putting God first in everything. So from a young age, it was instilled in us that the first thing we should turn to is not money, it's not ourselves, it's not another person, it should be God. So because of their trust and their dependence and hearing their testimony and their story and seeing the ministry and all that God is doing in their lives, then I was able to recognize that, okay, like I really can put God first. Like I'm not losing anything, or I'm not putting my trust in something that's unknown, because if I continue to spend time with him and, you know, stuff like that, like more of his character will be revealed to me, and it makes it easier for me to depend on God too. So one thing that really helped me is understanding that even if I take 2 steps towards God, he's taking like 10,000 towards me. And the closer, even if I just press in a little bit, he's meeting me exactly where I am every time. So that made it easier for me to put him first.
Okay. ኣብ ህይወትክስ እግዚኣብሔር ቀዳማይ ምዃኑ ትርእሉ ሲ መጀመርያ ኣብ ወለድኺ ክርእኽዮ ወለድኺ እሙናት ኮይኖም እግዚኣብሔር ክስዕብዎም ስራኣኽስ ኣብ ኩሉ ህይወቶም ድማ መገዲ ኣምላኽ ተማሂልሶም ክዕወቱም ስራኣኽስ ንስኺ ድማ ከምኡ ናቶም መገዲ ተኸቲለሲ ከም ዘይወድቕ ከም ዝዕወት ሲ ኢልኪ ኣሚንኪ ክትከድ ጀሚርኪ ድሕሪ ድማ ንእግዚኣብሔር ከሰማቕርዮም ዝጀመርክ ድማ ዝያዳ ዝቐረብኪስ እሱ ድማ ዝያዳ ቀርበክ
Exactly.
ይሄ አስተማሪርኪ ከምዘልከ በቃላት ከደማ ክልተ ስጉምት ንሕና ወሰጊመስ እሱ 10,000 ስጉምት ናባይ ከም
Even more than that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. እግዚአብሔርኩም ያምላክ ይመስገን ስለዚህ እዚህ ዩትናስኪ ንእግዚአብሔር ቀዳማይ ክትገብሪዮ ዝገበረኪ ስለዚህ እንድሕድ አኸሙ ኮይኑ ስድራኽ ድማ ሪእኽዮም ብዙሕ ግዜ ምስ ኣምላኽ ዝሕልፉ እንድሕድ ኣኾይኖም ናብታ ሓንቲ ሕቶ ተምፃን እንታያ ደቂ ኣገልጋሊ ኮይንክንሲ ኣብ ህይወትክን ሳፈር ድገበርክን ወይ ውን ድኸሰርክን ወይ ደይፅቡቕ ድኾነ ተመክሮ ዘለክን ኣሎ ዶ
So for me at least, you know, when you're, you know, they would always like say, oh, you're Daniel's kid, you're Daniel's kid, you're Daniel's kid. And it's like, it puts pressure. Like you have pressure on you because you're watched more than just the typical kid that would attend church. It's not an easy thing. Like even we travel a lot with Dad. So you go across the world and there's people still watching you. Like you go to a church and they know you by name. They know your dad.
Knew exactly what to say. I knew how to pray. I knew how to act in front of people. I knew how to greet so-and-so. Like I mastered the art, you know, of being a preacher's kid. And then I found myself gaining more in my spiritual journey when I was by myself versus at church. And so I was like, Frey, why is it that you're seeing more of God when you're alone? Which is not a bad thing, but what is it at church that's keeping you from God a little bit? And it's myself, because I felt like I had to act a certain way. I felt like I had to talk a certain way. And I felt like I couldn't present myself the way I truly wanted to, because it was not just my reputation. It was
Mom and Dad's.
My parents' reputation and the entire ministry that follows that as well. So I think the only reason also why it didn't make me stray away from God is because Dad always made us feel like a priority. So God was his priority, but over the ministry, over him traveling to what church and going to this country we as his children were his number one priority, other than mom, who was first. But he never missed any concerts. He never missed games. He never missed anything that we had going on. He never missed any church events, holidays, nothing. And before he goes, he always asks us, do you guys have anything? Yeah. Do you guys have anything this weekend? Or do you guys have anything for the next couple weeks? So usually it's fine. And if we don't want him to go, we'll tell him we don't want him to go. And he respects that and honors that because we are his number one priority. Yeah. So Dad was extremely present when we were younger. And now that we're older, he has a little bit more freedom to, go a little bit more because we don't need him as much. But he did an incredible job. I honestly don't understand how
he could balance.
He was everywhere, and still so present and focused on us. But it's because of, honestly, the way he handled that and the grace that Mom had to hold the household down while Dad was gone and play both Mom and Dad sometimes when Dad was not here is what kept me remembering God must really be worth all of this, all of the sacrifice that they're putting into it. God must truly matter. So what is it about this God? That's what kept me in the faith.
كلتا قلعت بحدا عينت جيجا جيركم كلهم سي اسخاين ودا قال تزونكاس نسخا زياده تمت اسخا خمس جبركا تبايلس ناس كاب فولي يرا نيرو يمكن دمو يا السودما قالو السود فطرو تصاقي نصلعات وزدو من قاليوم
يا
نقال قلعت نعهن كن اذا كلنا حلف كله ابوهن ادهن حيزو مخن سلاز خد نبرو سلاز حجزو كن ابتدي وانا قرب مثلا ترخول كنسي تناي تشيرش صلعات ويون تخلق خاود صعب زخل زنبرسي السوس تعليل كني تحنت دما تا حنتي حتى كن زليا نبركو بزعبه مخادو خير عبد الله وانسى قديمو نغركن كم نبره مو غزي تفلطو حد لي خنو خيد حتى لي خنو دما نانو ترفت بلو مو يترف كم نبره نيجر كني دخل وانا لولو قدي فكن كيدوس زدلخنا له وان اب كمز وانس I missed him بقى خمس قدي فينا خيدو تبلو غزي نيرو قال معلتات
Never. No, I don't think there was a single moment. I don't think. No, I know that there was never a moment where Dad put the ministry above us and chose his invitation or the pulpit over his children, even though both are honoring the Lord. I mean, it's a huge spiritual responsibility too. It's not easy to be a servant of the Lord like that and to sacrifice exactly. And God opens up certain doors, right? But at the same time, he understands the spiritual responsibility and of raising great children too. And that can only be done if he's present in our lives. So he never went against our will. And the only really challenging thing was when he'd be gone for a month or so, if he'd go back home, or sometimes a really long conference in Europe. It would be harder, but we made it. You just miss him, that's all.
But even when he would be out, we would do calls, FaceTime.
All the time,
we would, every night, we just, we still have ways to talk to him. Obviously, when we were little, we used to cry, no, I don't want Dad to go. But as soon as he leaves, we would cry because we don't want him to see us sad.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not a good thing it's not a nice thing to see him leaving. Mm-hmm. But even when you're younger, you understand why. And you know what he's doing it for. So since we understood that, it was never, thing. And even again how Frey was saying that he asked us, he didn't have to ask us for permission. He literally says, are you guys okay with me going? As if we're the parent and he's the kid. We're not gonna tell him no, but he wants us to be honest and say, yeah, we'll be sad, we'll miss you, but you can go. If it's near Christmas time, if it's near Thanksgiving, he won't even go because he doesn't want us to be alone on or without him on the holidays. So that's always what made us feel like we were first, we were put priority, and never had any kind of doubt of anything. Of course you miss him, but that's when we would FaceTime, talk to him, and then when he comes back, we would spend all days just doing so many things that we love to do together. So they never made us feel like we were missing out or like missing him or something like that.
Yeah. And sometimes he even gets to take us on those trips with him. So
Okay.
that's been
So
fun
we don't
too.
have to leave him.
Yeah.
So that's the double date.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
قدامي እግዚአብሔር ከም ምዃኑ ኣብ ሂወትክንስ ንዓ ክትገልፃ ፀኒሕክን ብድሕሪኡ ቀፂላ ዘላ ድማ ቤተሰብ እያ ስለዚ ኣብ ሂወትክን እቲ ብካልእ ደረጃ ዝስራዕ ድማ ቤተሰብ እዩ ብሳልሳይ ድማ ቤት ትምህርቲ ኢልካ ስለዚ ነታ ናይ ቤተሰብ ትብል ሓሳባት ንዓኣሲ ዝያዳ ክነብርሃ ስድራክን ክምህሩክን ከለዉ ኣብ ሂወትክን ብካልእ ደረጃ ዝስራዕ ቤተሰብ እዩ ክብልኹም ከለውስ እንታይ ማለት እዩ ወይ ብኸመይክን ነዚኣ ትገልፃ
One thing that I really appreciate that our parents did, and honestly, I have not heard of any other family really doing anything like this, are things that we call family evaluations. So usually every year we'll do it. If we can, it's like when we're on vacation and we're having a good time, you know, they always made sure that the atmosphere was good. So the thing is with evaluations, when you're telling someone something they could be doing better, if that person's already not happy, it's not going to land on good soil. So instead of doing something good, it'll just make everything worse and create more problems. So they always make sure that it's at a good time. So they plant it in our mind. Okay, we're going to do our family evals a week from now. Start thinking about what we're going to say. So we all sit together and we talk. We talk about each individual person in the family. We talk about the things that we really love and the things that we think they could be doing better. So one of the biggest things they always tell us is, first, that this is coming from a place of love. And secondly, if more than one person is telling you something, then maybe you should fix it. Because sometimes it's hard to see things within yourself. So all of this is only just to prune us and make us better. And the best thing is that not only were our parents doing that for us, but we were allowed to tell them, honestly. We were allowed to say, hey, Mom, I think you do amazing at this, but could do better at this. Hey, Dad, I think you could do better at this, but you're amazing at this, you know? So them humbling themselves to come down to that level since we were young. We used to do this since we were little. And it's something that has been...
You remember how little?